Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video in JMA Friday for today's first video. As always on a Friday, we're having a detailed look at the weather for the next month with the Japanese and CFS V2 models. Well, as detailed as we can get with a longer range look ahead. Later on, we'll have a look at weather next week to 10 days with the shorter range models, and we'll also see about the wintry potential over the next day or so. Have got bitterly cold easterly winds, bringing a little bit of snow at the moment. So have a bit more on that this afternoon, as well as the week to 10 day look ahead. So come back for that this afternoon, but getting on with JMA Friday in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you're going to be able to pay the website, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads to both pages, which own content, and when you watch them, you can close them back up again by clicking the little black cross, and it is all helping to pay for our website. So thanks very much for getting involved. And thanks for doing that. Right, we'll start off with the JMA. We'll have a look at CFS V2. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies from the Japanese one. I'll break it down into weekly periods. The first week period will take us from the week that we're currently in, the 10th through to the 17th of February. The brighter colours, the yellows, oranges with these charts, always extrapolate to high pressure, and the darker colours, the blue colours, they always extrapolate to low pressure. So for the coming week, if I got this ridge around the north and the northeast of the UK with a trough down to the south and the wind coming in from the east. So that looks a cold one to be starting off with. Having a look at week 2, which takes us from the 17th through 24th of February. Again, we see we've got a ridge up to the north. It's like more towards the northwest. The trough is down to the south. And again, I think we'll have the winds coming in from the east or even the northeast. So again, that one does look quite cold going into the second half of February. Weeks 3 and 4 shows a change though. We've got low pressure out to the west of us, and a ridge is towards the southeast of Europe. So this is bringing milder and more unsettled conditions back in off the Atlantic. You'd have bands of rain coming in with this low pressure in the Atlantic, but you would have milder temperatures as well. The temperatures would be definitely starting to lift up there. If we can have a quick look at the mid-latitude view. So this again is the JMA model. It's just a different view. It's looking from the pole down on those first charts. This is the mid-latitude and tropical view. We see that the British Isles on this chart is in the top right-hand corner of the chart as we're looking at it. Remind you of the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next week. Again, these are broken down into week periods. So the first week period is today, the 10th through 17th of February. It's got the above average heights, the high pressure to the north, the low pressure down to the south, and bringing the winds in from the east. So it looks like it should be a cold one, and that's what the model is predicting with its temperature anomaly coming out colder than average there through most parts of the country. The precipitation anomaly looks significantly drier than average to the north, closer to average to the south, but even in the south, it's a bit on the dry side. So cold and dry essentially sums it up for the next week. We have a look at the next week. This takes us from the 17th through 24th of February. This has to be above average heights out to the northwest, with a trough down to the south, and again bringing those winds probably from the northeast. So it still looks like it should be quite cold. So northern parts of the country coming out closer to average with this one, but in the south it is still colder than average from the 17th through to the 24th of February. The precipitation anomaly for week 2, that is coming out still a bit drier than average through most parts of the country. So it sees a continuation of JMA of cold and dry into the second half of February. Then weeks 3 and 4 looks like quite a big change. We get this deep trough out to the west of the country. Now, it looks like the Atlantic should be returning, so I expect this to be milder, and that's what the model is showing. Temperature anomalies are coming out warmer than average or milder than average from the 24th of February through to the 10th of March, weeks 3 and 4. But the precipitation anomaly is going up. So, well, what we gain in the temperatures increasing, we lose with the rainfall coming back. Looks mild and wet there as we're going into the end of February and the start of March. So that's the JMA. What about the CFS V2, and again these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 10th through to the 16th of February. We find we've got above average heights again to the north and the northeast of the British Isles, with trophies down to the south and the flow. A little bit more southeasterly with this, but it still looks like it should be quite a cold week coming up there from the 10th through to the 16th of February. Now, week 2 shows a change from what the JMA is doing. The JMA, for this second week, and this is taking us from the 17th to 23rd of February, the JMA wants to keep it cold into the second half of the month, or relatively cold anyway. But the CFS is seeing quite a big change. It's repositioning that ridge through central and into southern Europe, and with low pressure in the Atlantic, we'll be pulling the winds up from the southwest. So that looks like it should be quite a lot milder there going into that week compared to what the JMA is showing. Week 3 looks very similar, again above average heights through many central and southern parts of Europe. The low pressure's out in the Atlantic, so again you would expect the winds to be coming up from the southwest, something like that. It looks like it should be mild, but still fairly dry, especially so for the south. But then a bit of a change again from what the JMA is doing. This is week 4, the 3rd through to the 9th of March. This one looks much more unsettled. Low pressure's running through the country, but look at this area of above average heights that's getting going around Greenland. Now, this at the very end of February, in the start of March, is around where you would expect the effects from that sudden stratospheric warming to start coming through the atmosphere. So the model is certainly increasing. It's lifting up heights around Greenland and extending into the North Pole for the start of March compared to what we see in week 3. In its own terms, it isn't a cold chart, because the low pressure running through the country is actually bringing the air in off the Atlantic. But of course, that's week 4. It's a long way off. And if these heights were to strengthen more up here to the north, then we might start entrenching much colder air down from the north. So quite a big difference to this morning between what the JMA is doing, what the CFS is doing, starting as early as week 2. Temperature anomalies for the next week with the CFS V2 looking colder than average. That's in agreement with where the JMA is. But week 2, where the JMA wants to keep things quite cold, this one, the 17th, 23rd of February, looking significantly milder than average. I have to say, based on what the shorter range models are doing, this is probably more in line with how things are going to go, with a fairly quick end to the cold weather. Week 3, which takes us from the 24th through to the 24th of February through to the 2nd of March, that one looking milder than average as well. And then week 4 is also looking milder than average. So after this next week, it does look like it's fairly mild then through to the end of March, through to the end of February, possibly even into the start of March as well. Temperature, or I should say precipitation anomalies, they're coming out drier than average in the next week, and then we go through to week 2, which is also drier than average from the 16th, 22nd of February. So it's still quite a block scenario. It's just that the high pressure repositions, and instead of bringing in a cold easterly, it starts to drag up milder air from the south. Week 3, which is the 24th of February through the 2nd of March, losing the signal a little bit, but it looks like it's turning a bit more unsettled actually through that one. And then we get through to week 4, and we've really lost the signal, but I suspect with that we will probably be quite unsettled there from the 3rd through to the 9th of through to the 9th of March. So that's how the two models are looking, and there's quite a lot of disagreement between the two of them. They're both in agreement for the next week, so that's okay. Quite cold for the coming week. But we get through into week 2. JMA wants to keep the cold going. The CFS wants to turn things significantly milder. Based on where the shorter range models are, I suspect we'll go with the CFS on that. Probably will turn milder, perhaps as early as the start of next week down in the south, but will take a while to get that milder air further north. And then we go through the second half of February into March. I think we'll gradually turn it more unsettled, so probably will end February on quite a wet and windy note. Into the start of March, we could turn things a bit colder if heights start to rise around Greenland. So that's how it's looking this morning. As ever, these charts are always highly experimental, not to be relied upon. It's just a heads up for what they are showing, a snapshot, if you like, for what they're showing today. But they could look very different, as I always say, as we get through into next week's update. So do it all again next week. Come back later on this afternoon. We'll have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. So come back for that later. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.